Howdy friends, welcome to another episode of the Rightful Church channel. Have you ever reflected on what it is to be a reserved person? I think that a lot of people still are pretty reserved today, and I think that's actually a good quality. I'm a reserved person. What's this? Got a scrape here. Got deer track in the yard, that's probably what this is. So, what is a reserved person? So this is kind of a definition for you. Slow to reveal emotion or opinions is a reserved person. And here's some synonyms for you. Reticent, quiet, private, remote, silent, indifferent. My wife accuses me of being indifferent. Formal, detached, distant, unfriendly, unsociable. Reserved. Are you one of those people? And if you are, don't be ashamed of it. It's not such a bad thing. Quite often, reserved people are the folks who, they're polite, courteous. They'll open the door for you. They're trusting, although they're reserved. Don't confuse those two things. Although a lot of people don't open doors for other people, and it's probably more of their upbringing than anything else. If you don't hold the door open for an old lady, you're either a jerk, or frankly, your cultural norm is worrying that you're going to be attacked by your fellow citizens. If you live in a neighborhood like that, in an environment like that, of course you're not going to hold doors open for people, because holding a door open for somebody, you actually open yourself up to the prospect of being attacked. It's pretty sad, but So reserved people, they're generally polite. Now, you have reserved people, and then you also have people who need to be the center of attention. They have to be the center of attention. They bask in the limelight. They love it. And if somebody says something nice to them, they go through some kind of transformative change where they almost immediately start to beam energy right back at you because they've been complimented. Reserved people, not so much, but let me tell you, with those reserved people, they're quiet, to a certain extent, possibly they're even withdrawn. If you have somebody that's reserved, and you compliment them based on something that they did that you liked, you probably just made a friend for life. Reserved people. And then you also have louts. They're just noisy. I frequently see them being the people with the pink and the green and the blue hair, with the signs protesting, and really ultimately they haven't really examined the situation in depth. They haven't reflected. At least if they have, it's only been a narrow field of view that they've approached the subject from. Reserved people have a tendency to ingest on situations, research, try to understand kind of the world of the situation, or the meat and potatoes of the situation, try to understand the environmentals as to why people are making the kinds of decisions that they are, and kind of broad spectrum stuff. They'll research, they'll investigate, they'll confirm their opinions, and they won't base action off of a 20-second soundbite on the mainstream media, which is very elusive, and frankly is fewer and fewer people are trusting that as an information source. A lot of people still do, though, and that's a little bit concerning because they're basing decisions off sound bites and not well researched information. So reserved people, they show restraint. Now that comes in many different forms. For example, I was recently at a meeting. It's kind of a forest industry thing. forest industry people are at this meeting, and we were talking about this group of people. A lot of them went to fight fires. These people are risking themselves life and limb in a smart way, mind you, in a methodological standard operating procedures, best management practices, all these different things that you adopt. Safety when you're fighting a forest fire is utmost. Human life is not to be sacrificed because of a fire, if you can help it. And some of the things that they did in 2017, 2018 here in British Columbia was absolutely phenomenal. Just the lives that were saved, the homesteads that were saved, the way of life that was saved in some of these areas, key infrastructure that was saved. And very few people, applaud them for what they did. Unless, of course, you're one of the people that were impacted. One way or another. Maybe they saved your house. Those people acknowledge them. But the rest of us don't. Not really. So they're in this room. And then I asked them, those of you that fought in the fires, 2017, 2018, would you please stand up? They were very reluctant to do so. But when they did, the room broke out in applause. And I think that they were surprised. I think they're used to the silence, and I think that they're used to, there's a lot of Americans and a lot of Canadians out there that are not the flag wavers, that are not, the fist pumpers, the chest beaters. They're probably privately very patriotic people. But they're reserved. And they're embarrassed when people draw attention to them. But I can tell you, I know for sure that the people that stood up and received that applause, it meant the world to them. It really did. Even though they were embarrassed, they appreciated it. They said thank you to me afterwards. And I don't really, it is kind of sad. I mean, it was a leadership moment, but part of that is recognizing people who've worked hard for something and achieved something, done great things, and then quietly went back to their normal lives. And never sought out personal fame. It's selflessness. And here's another way of looking at it. You take a bunch of people that are reserved, they're not prone to outbursts, and you motivate them, and you make them angry, or you get some momentum behind them. They can be quite a force to be reckoned with, and it is especially important at the polls. If you can motivate these reserved people, they're the silent majority. I think maybe they're becoming the silent minority, because they just don't stand up and make their voices heard, but they will on election day. And if you have loudmouths in office, well, that's when the reserved people are going to make their voices known. But once they're motivated, once they get some massive momentum behind them, reserved people can be quite a force to be reckoned with. I'm quite frequently reminded of the veterans. We're talking about trying to achieve things like Vimy Ridge. Those are some kick-ass people that did what they did. Those Canadians, absolutely phenomenal. In World War I, veterans were renowned for not wanting to talk about it. They were reserved, withdrawn. They didn't want to discuss that part of their life, what they had seen, what they had experienced. But what they accomplished was absolutely incredible. And the conditions, the environment, and a well-trained and experienced foe who held the high ground. What they achieved was incredible. Now, I'm a reserved person, so I feel like I'm somewhat qualified to talk about the subject. I don't enjoy getting up in front of a room of people and speaking to them. Our last meeting, I facilitated a small session with about 84 people in the room. And I don't like getting up in front of people. I don't like speaking in front of people. But I know lots of facilitators that do. They thrive on it. They get energized by it. Me standing up in front of a group of people like that drains my energy. Okay? And just being honest, I'm a reserved person. That's kind of, what do you call it? Anyway, introverts, extroverts being what they are. Some people really, really groove on getting in front of people. I think a lot of those people get themselves involved in politics. They want to be adored, they want to be loved, they want to be a movie actress, they love to play. Well, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, right? I mean, it's a variety of life that makes this world interesting. We need extroverts. We need people who get energy from doing these things, but quite frequently they're politicians. And, some of them are louts. Let's be honest, right? It's one of the oldest occupations of the world is to be a politician. And there's another one which we won't talk about now, but they're in Ottawa, or they're in your provincial government, or they're in your municipal government. I think a lot of them do it for the right reasons, but a lot of them don't. A lot of them need to be the center of attention. They need to be the focus of people's attention. Something inside of them is missing, so they need that external adoration. And the truth of the matter is, similarly minded people eventually come to dietize them. What's the word I'm looking for? It's almost religious. Like President Obama, he was more of a preacher than a politician. Like when you hear him speaking, you swear he was speaking from a pulpit in a cathedral or church somewhere, talking to, like a shepherd talking to his flock. And you'll have to excuse me. When I'm out in the woods, I pay attention. There was one. It's a bit of a divergence from the subject, but there was this one warrant officer I knew, and really impressed by him. The captain and I were speaking to him, this warrant officer, on a training exercise, and he basically only made contact with us once, so he could recognize us, so he knew who he was talking to. But all the time he was talking to us, he was observing the tree line, he was looking at the train, he was looking for movement, because the enemy was close, and he knew it. We were right up at the front. This training exercise, long time ago. And I studied him, and I watched him. Right? He was paying total, absolute attention to us, but he wasn't looking at us. He got what he needed from us, and we got what we needed from him, and the mission moved on. Anyway, it's a little segue. So, if you see somebody that is not pumping their fist, beating their chest, making noise, they're probably reserved people, and they're thinking about what they're seeing, trying to put it in context and understand the world. They're investigative, intelligent people. And you want reserved people to be on your side. Sometimes maybe what you need to do is go ask them what they think. It might be difficult to get them to open up to you, things like that. You need to establish trust, to share your personal thoughts on things, because people use that against you, especially at the louts of the world, and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of these louts pumping their fists, banging their chests, dyeing their hair pink. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, and they know that. But in my opinion, I'll take a reserved person any day of the week. Hope you guys are all doing great. Cheers, and as always, Maple Leaf up.